Liminal, obviously, the IP, the technology, they're built in a very niche field. And the security of these instruments, traditional more players like those gravitating from Web 2 to Web 3 at the intersection of cryptography and security.
So Rajesh, you transitioned from TradFi to DeFi. What was that journey like, and how it evolved and how it changed, and what remained constant also? If you could just share with us.
Sure. I mean, the transformation has been pretty complex, and there have been some certain similarities. I mean, both are specifically focused on how do you drive transfer of value, money, and traditional financial institutions have been able to move the barriers, especially in developed markets, but we still see the problems exist. About 1.6 billion are unbanked, and the payment fees and the barriers to entry in emerging markets are very stiff. And that's what this whole paradigm shift, if you look at it, going from a permissioned and a centralized architecture to a more trustless and permissionless, enables you to do. How do you expand access and drive that usage and be able to do that in a regulated fashion and provide vast access to the unbanked, to the underbanked, right, globally at scale? I think that's what is really driven me to jump into this blockchain bandwagon. And then we all know it's been a roller coaster. Any technology in its nascent stage go through its evolution. We have seen the setbacks. And now I think at least the pipes, the infrastructure, the regulatory environment, and operational standards have caught up, and it's pretty comparable to the traditional financial institutions that operate to solve similar problems.
So, what did you envision 8 years ago, and how has it become a reality? Could you just share from your journey in DeFi?
We have to be honest that we're still in the stages of infancy, right? When it comes to blockchain adoption, we all can admit we have moved from a proof of concept into real world applications, from speculative use cases, which is what a lot of the regulators were worried about, into those that drive impact and purpose, right? So that we agree. I mean, for me, primarily, it was all about the financial inclusion and driving access and usage globally. I think that was very powerful for me. And I think we've seen very early promising signs, especially in stable coins and cross-border and even real-world tokenization, these alternative assets, how it can be marketed and be available through fractionalization to the mass market. And these traditional instruments were not necessarily available. So we do see that, and the institutional adoption, I think, is a great testament to this promise. And the regulatory environment has caught up as well, so that there is more transparency to preserve the stability and the security of these instruments, which are issued by the various blockchain players. So trust is very paramount when we deal with financial services. And I think the compliance has caught up. The tools and standards, not the backbone infrastructure, are also, no, I would say they've even far exceeded and surpassed the banking environment and those silos that exist with it. But what's then preventing, and why haven't we reached mass scale adoption in a lot of these use cases, right? When it comes to user interfaces and making it intuitive, easily available, something like what the Web 2 applications that we easily associate with, the Amazon, the Netflixes, the day-to-day apps, the super apps, make it available, easy, with one click, very simple and transparent, where all the technology complexities and the nuances are sort of hidden from the users. I think there's still work to be done. There's some exciting technologies like account abstraction and a lot of these automation. And that's what is very interesting about these B2B custody service providers as well. And it's equally applicable for enterprises who want to jump into the blockchain paradigm. So I think there's still work to be done for mass scale adoption, but we are seeing some early promising signs of those dreams being realized.
So you work with customers, partners all the time, and you worked everywhere in the world, from Tokyo to Europe to the US. And of course, you're based and you're living in Singapore. From your standpoint, how are these markets very different? APAC being, really diverse. How is that different from what you've seen in the West? And how do we stand to, be a partner for the kind of challenges or opportunities that are out there?
Sure, that's a great question. Certainly, I had the privilege to be traveling around and gain global perspectives across continents, working with different cultures and environments and different technological advancements, right? I mean, in the telecom, the mobile space, through the internet, the dot-com evolution, the digital media and the AI, and then the whole traditional web to fintech evolution as well. So that gave me a great perspective, and Asia Pac in specific, highly heterogeneous, right? And we understand that a lot of the market companies, when they do establish base, they do see the size and stuff, but requires a very different business model to successfully operate. If you look specifically in the blockchain domain, since that's what lies close to our heart, you see that, for instance, Singapore, Hong Kong, being traditional hub for the financial space, a lot of the use cases, what the regulators focus on, is about institutional adoption, wholesale CBDCs. How do you, even the JP Morgans and the large financial institutions, Standard Chartered, HSBCs, have been focused on either real world asset tokenizations for securities, bonds, and different kinds of funds, real estates included, or for between a bank to bank settlement and looking at a unified ledger, programmable money to address that. Very close collaboration with central bank, because you don't have that much of a problem with the retail base not having access to the traditional financial deposits and payment sources, right? And then you go like a market like in Southeast Asia, Philippines and stuff, huge inbound remittance market. How do you make that cheaper, faster? Instant settlement, also huge traction in the gaming segment where people, are incentivized to play to earn rewards. And these are things from a highly centralized into a decentralized environment with more instant settlement that and atomic transfers that happen on blockchain, I think are very suitable for these use cases. Thailand, India, Indonesia, high retail adoption. You haven't seen, the regulators are still catching up. They've been on the fence. But then the retail, the pressure from the retail segments in terms of the interest in a lot of these tokens and blockchain protocols emerging from these areas have also made the regulators to look into it and see how they can collaborate with different players. And then you have something like UAE, where the environment is highly conducive for regulated players to operate easily, open to a plethora of use cases. And that is a great hub and boat that serves into the various MENA markets. Again, for real estate tokenization, or for DeFi players, a lot of these blockchain-based players who are operating to provide liquidity pools and DeFi yields. Again, that's a very attractive market. So you could see there's no one size fits all. And when it comes to a blockchain player, the positioning, the messaging, and in terms of the reach, the targeted audience, and the collaboration with the ecosystem, the community, the central banks and partners need to be very nuanced when you operate between these markets. And that's why when you build these architecture and the base layer, you need to take this into consideration that, the various partnership ecosystem is going to be different, and the solutions and the use cases that you're going to power. And that's going to be no different for us in Liminal when we go into these markets. End of the day, doesn't matter irrespective of the use case. What the people want is to safely hold, just like you have a bank account, you have a trusted service provider, a custodian, and you can withdraw at any point of time seamlessly across channels and do transactions. It's going to be the same. You want to be able to hold, secure, do transactions with all the technology behind, leaving aside whether it's MPC or multi-sig or HSM, and obfuscating these sort of technological details, but making it seamless for enterprises to have that enterprise-grade security, the bank-grade compliance with the auditing, the reports, and all that associated, with the traditional fintech financial service players. And then that's what they want, and they want to be able to transact, and then they want to be able to generate yields out of these tokens and digital assets that they are holding, and provide different monetization layers. The use cases may vary, the type of partners, whether you're engaging with crypto players like DeFi, DAOs, blockchain layers, stablecoin issuers, or traditional more players like those gravitating from Web 2 to Web 3, or more traditional financial institutions, telcos looking for a digital asset, a depository institution arm. Those may vary, but largely the principles, the underlying are the same. But the compliance, the operating standards, the localization for somebody operating in a very diverse market like Asia Pac, like in Europe, if you go, yes, there are going to be some changes as you move towards Europe in adoption, in the mindset, but the license is the same. A lot of the players operating are similar. but you don't have that across Asia Pac. And I think those operating, including Liminal, have to be cognizant of that.
Let me ask you a little bit about you've been a solution engineer yourself, and you have led sales teams throughout your career in various industries across various worlds and Web 2, Web 3 now. What's your experience been in terms of approaching customers? Something that you would want to share with somebody who would want to pursue a similar career, or some tips on how to gain customer confidence in this volatile world?
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to share definitely my journey, the metamorphosis, and it may not be the standards. I'm not sure how much it would be applicable to many, but certainly, right? I mean, me as a person, I actively pursue challenges. Status quo is something I don't embrace easily, whether it is across roles. And yes, I mean, started from as a developer into consulting, into engineering and solution engineering, architecture, finally into sales, or across geographies, across industries you mentioned. Of course, the key denominator across it all is my driving impact. And I'm passionate about leveraging technology, the latest technological innovations to solve real customer problems. So the impact and purpose is very important. Of course, when you're in a commercial sort of role, the financial objectives to be met, whether it's a startup or MNC, are critical. But it has to be profit with purpose. Are we solving a real problem? And if it is just about, as we know in the blockchain domain, not necessarily all use cases are relevant and stuff. If you're going into a really emerging market where it's all about basic financial inclusion and you're offering sophisticated trading products to make quick bucks, might not be necessarily solving any deep problems there. So that is very something close to my heart. And yes, I mean, because of the impact I always viewed from the customer lens, and I think the transition happened a lot more seamlessly into the commercial domain. And it's something I realized with customers, as it is with any other relationship and stuff, is trust is paramount. And it's the same whether you as an operator selling to your clients, or you establish it with your partners or with various ecosystem players. Transparency, trust to build long-term meaningful, and where it is truly and it's one of the most overrated philosophies in the business world, it has to be a win-win partnership. Squeezing somebody when they don't perceive the value and leveraging the salesmanship to drive that is not been my cup of tea. So I love the challenges, challenging targets, but it has to be in the principle that they perceive value and they turn into something, a repeatable sales proposition, an upsell proposition, a long-term customer, even better, a reference and case study, or mentors, friends, or even in some exceptional circumstances, some of my clients. And that's the mantra that I try to build with my colleagues wherever I had worked. How do you build that in a transparent way? Yes, you need to be creative in deal positioning, posturing, formulating different strategies for negotiation. But at the end of it, the value needs to be pretty conspicuous to the clients so they can come back to us. The second thing that I also do is something internal, which is often mixed. And that's something, because of my journey, I have that, certainly the insider benefit. Where there is active collaboration for sales needed with product engineering, and sales are sort of the voice of what the market feels. They have the pulse of it. They need to articulate this credibly, collaborate internally to overcome. It doesn't, surely not everybody may share the same perspective. And that's why they're not in sales. They may be in engineering, they may be in product, they may be in the back end operations. And any new opportunity may bring significant challenges to them. So it's not just about the outside selling aspect. How do you do inside? A large part of the commercial responsibilities entails fostering that relationship and trust. And that's something I gained a lot from my Japan experience, where the customers buy trust before they buy your products. And that's what the onus is on each external facing representative to instill that trust, credibility as the brand ambassador. And equally important is how you collaborate with the internal stakeholders and sort of the sales being feeling the pulse of the market. How do you communicate and articulate internally effectively to bring the different stakeholders and gather buy-in from different segments, all the way from CEO to product engineering, operations, compliance, to convince them or also listen to their perspectives. And that fundamentally about how you build How do you build relationship based on the principles of mutual trust, respect, and transparency, right? And so whether it's internal or external, that's something I try to enforce in the teams that I build and the sort of culture that I embrace. And in the long run, that's what serves well. It's not just about achieving the milestones and the financial objectives, but we can truly see that impact, and we can try to see how that aligns with the overall mission of the company as well. I think that's a very fulfilling journey, and that's what I try to imbibe in the various commercial teams that I drive.
Great. So you've just joined Liminal. What made you join Liminal and what excites you about Liminal?
Great question. So, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously I'm passionate about technology, right? So, Liminal, obviously, the IP, the technology, they're built in a very niche field, especially at the intersection of cryptography and security, which is very important. And if you think about in digital assets, it's a very fundamental but essential problem on dealing with security. I mean, we hear about hacks, we hear about unfortunate incidents, and if you don't solve that, you can't build the various services on top. And then how Liminal has been building silently the IP, and not in the quieter markets, in the emerging, the APAC, the MENA markets in Africa, where they may not have access to some of these overpriced and incumbents. They may not be operating, may not be the primary focus, and they may not have the local ecosystem partners and the clarity in compliance. So the challenges are more complicated in these markets, and at the same time, the economics may also be challenging, right? How do you really make it profitable business? I think Liminal is that mill. So that was the first thing that got me attracted. The second is obviously a compliance first company and their focus on regulatory. And I think that's the way to go for all blockchain players. Need to operate by the similar principles that the TradeFi institutions have operated all this while. And that's how they have learned through the journey to build credible products and financial solutions. So I think that being the core of Liminal's focus attracted me as well. The third is something I think, especially in startups, is the most underrated. In my opinion, I would say it is the most important attribute that you need to possess. It's resilience, and it's not about a startup will face any adversity.
Staying power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to have those battle scars, and it is not whether you will face it. It's when you do in the startups, and it's how you come back. You don't choose your problems, but how you respond to it. And especially in the crypto domain, almost everybody have gone through different, especially through these cycles of hypes and setbacks, and we know how it oscillates. And I think Liminal has done that credibly, professionally, with a sense of decency and transparency to the community, and that attracted. The last, and this is very equally important, last but not least, is the culture. I'm very, yes, as I said, any company doing well financially and stuff attracts me, but a company that focuses on inclusivity, having the right principles of engaging everybody, and right from the founder at the hem. And in a lot of startups is set by the founder in what type of culture. And we operate in a decentralized environment, and I see that as well in a startup. It's very hard to get the equation, how you're able to delegate authority and have an autonomous functioning organization where different voices can be heard. People are not scared to commit failures. And these are principles that can easily be in a lot of HR policies, but to actively execute on the ground, I think, again, Liminal has done as well as startups can do. And certainly there's, like with every company, a lot of improvements that we can collectively work on, but that's why I've joined, to be part of this exciting journey.
Great. So tell me, how do you derive energy and how do you reset yourself? Sales is a high stress job.
Right. Few things I try to say is, focus on the controllables. There's a lot of macros, a lot of exogenous factors that we don't have any control over, and stick to the process. And so that's why we spend a lot of time strategy, and got to be nimble, sure, as new external data come in, that we have to adapt and be flexible. But we can't be just reacting in a knee-jerk fashion to every single situation, and that will make it very stressful. And so for me personally, as I said, I pursue challenge. I have high risk tolerance, because of my life journey, and and voluntarily accepting different amount of risk thresholds in my life. So my tolerance, I would rate it high. So I think as long as it is challenging, and as I said, the word is impact and purpose, and I can see that manifest with the clients, the partners, the ecosystem players, the employees, the people that you engage day to day, that certainly energizes me. Personal rewards and challenges are great, but when you see that it's an whole ecosystem that's able to, you're able to transfer that rewards and value. That is one big aspect. The other is it's not just about my growth and that I'm extremely focused on, but also the team and the colleagues and the people that I work with. And I think mentorship is a big word, but if I can be a tool and if I can collaborate, if I help people in some form or shape to remove the obstacle or at least help them circumvent some of these into a better position. And especially, when you get a line like, hey, that really helped and, thanks for that. Or I think that is, for me, more important a lot of times than these financial rewards and other things we all pursue in our career. The last is obviously, I think for me and for a lot of people, it's that way. The mind, the body, and the energy, for me, they're so intertwined. So keeping both mentally fit, trying to spend with, for me right now, it's my daughter and stuff. So trying to also find what really energizes you outside work, fitness, nature, and that feed into each other. And when I feel that I'm in prime physical fitness and shape, I see that I'm able to do that transfer, that persistence, that discipline and resilience, that learning transfer into my professional domain. And that feeds into being better at family. And that's something I've seen. They usually work hand in hand. So I don't get it always right, but I know those moments, and that's a great feel.
Great. Some rapid fire questions?
Sure. Yeah. Not used to it, but certainly nothing hopefully controversial.
Nothing controversial. So, favorite food?
Certainly. I'm not that much of a foodie, to be honest, and stuff, but where I come from and stuff, dosas are pretty good.
Dosas are your favorite food. Favorite destination?
Oh, it's tough because I've traveled around, but I keep going back to Japan, but not just necessarily Tokyo, but a lot of the heritage sites and ski resorts in Japan.
What about your favorite sport?
Tennis, surely. I love tennis, watching, playing, and like everybody, almost Indians, cricket, and and hockey. But tennis is my favorite.
Great. And what about the last movie that you watched? Which was your last movie?
Wow, the last one. I'm big into war movies and stuff, especially if it is about, again, talking resilience and against all odds and coming up, try to energize. Some great, but I was just watching it again. I've seen it many in 1911. It's a World War I. Sorry, 1917.
1970 and Gladiator 2. Did you watch
Gladiator 2? That was good as well. It's All Quiet on the Western Front is another one. So there are quite a few that comes to mind, but yeah.
Great. Thank you. It was so nice having you here.
Thank you so much, Anandita. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and look forward to my journey here at Liminal. Thank you.
Thank you.